Make sure you Hello, hello. Just setting up here. We'll start in a little bit. Is everything clear? Can you guys hear properly? Just checking real quick. Perfect. I see the thumbs up. Let's see who's here. All right. We're excited today. It's going to be day three. So let me kind of set things up here, give some time for people to filter in, and then we'll get going. We're going to finish strong, you guys. It's going to be fun. How do I do this? There we go. How's everyone's weekend going? You guys having a relaxing weekend? There we go. Let's see. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed day one and day two if you've been here. We covered a lot of stuff. So today's more about tying everything together. So I hope you guys take something useful and valuable away. Yeah, so we're just giving a little bit more time and then we'll get going here. Maybe just another 2 or 3 minutes, yeah? And thanks for showing up, and I'm excited. I mean, it's a weekend. You could be doing anything, but you're here right now. So, props to you, and I really appreciate it as well. Definitely want to make it worth your while. So, the screen looks good. Before we start, you guys have any comments, questions on the last 2 days? It'd be kind of nice. You can just post it in the chat, put it in the comments, wherever it is, and I'll definitely get back to y'all. Again, these kind of challenges is me just kind of speaking to a camera. So if you guys have anything, just kind of post it on the chat. It'd be nice to actually like speak to you guys one-on-one too. So, but since that's not possible now, definitely just kind of shout it out, say whatever it is, and I'll try to address that when I can. Alrighty, I think we're ready. So, welcome, welcome. If you just joined or you're here for a bit, um, if you just joined, this is day three of our Burnout to Breakthrough Challenge. If you were here day one and day two, which you most likely were, we're going to be closing things out strong, kind of tying everything together and give you something that you can actually take away so that post this challenge, you'll still be able to retain and use all the information that we've been giving out so far. So, yeah, no more wasting time. Let's get going. So welcome to day three. Before we start, however, my team actually had a few questions regarding what I shared at the end of day two, regarding the gameplay loop mastery program. So I just want to kind of just share some stuff, clear things up before we get started too, just because we got a few questions. So ultimately, the gameplay loop mastery program, what exactly is it? It is a 4-week private coaching program with live calls, group Q&As, tools, resources, just everything essentially based on everything we've been learning so far. Because again, these challenges are like 30 minutes to an hour. In this Gameplay Loop Mastery program, we really dive into each of the components and tailor something exactly for what you need for your own life. So this kind of the whole objective ideally is to help you break free from burnouts gain clarity, and kind of create momentum in your life towards all your goals. Because if you're here, most likely you might feel stuck or burnout. And I'm using this framework to kind of help you out of that based on everything we've been talking about. Because everything you've been given so far is the foundation. It can be really dived a lot deeper into. And it's mostly for people who want to start taking action. And you want to just like guide me right now, give me the solutions. I want to do it right now. This is going to be the program for you. So ultimately, another question that was asked is how much time do I actually need to commit to this? Like, okay, sure, I want to do it, but how much time, right? Because I don't have a lot of time. I completely understand. And in fact, I designed this whole program specifically for busy professionals because I know we're swamped of time. You probably have a family, you're working, all these kind of things. So I know you're busy. So I only really wanted to create this that requires you to spend maybe 2 to 3 hours per week. Okay. It doesn't take a lot of time because I believe in sustainability more than intensity, at least. So I want it to be consistent, sustainable, and fun for you. So it's just 2 to 3 hours to complete the lessons and apply the strategies each day. And ultimately, even though you're too busy, maybe for the week or two, if you do sign up, whatever it is, you can do it at your own pace because everything's recorded. You get all the resources, it'll be sent to you, and you can revisit it whenever you want. And in fact, I might even improve it with time, and you have continued access to it. And it is only $199. And reason being that I'm making it so cheap is because this is a pilot program. It's a one-time offer that I'm only offering to people who are in this challenge right now because I understand you guys put in the time to go through all these things. So it's a really one-time thing, and I'm not sure when I'll actually offer it this price again. So if you are in here and you're really curious about diving deeper into it, actually starting to take action, is the perfect time to do so. So just want to kind of get these questions out of the way here. I want to make this clear that I'm only doing like small, like 10 spots really, because I don't want to work with too many people, because I believe that if you do sign up, you deserve the attention, you deserve the support. So I want to really work on you one-on-one. And ultimately, yeah, I want to keep it small. It's not something that's going to be like a giant class where you get lost in the crowd. Like if you do sign up, I will be talking to you and figuring things out along with you. So if you're interested, here's the link, christian1.com/now. There should be a link in the chat as well. Yeah, so check it out. So that's that. Just some questions out of the way. Now we can actually get into the meat of why we're here. So here we go. Before we begin day two, I want to do a quick recap on day three, quick recap on day two, essentially, because day two was all about understanding that failure is part of the process. It's not being afraid of it. It's understanding that you want to get excited for failures. And when you fail, it's a good indication that you're moving forward, and to not mistaken just something that is difficult, like work maybe, for something that's actually a proper challenge that's going to help you grow. So you have to get comfortable taking on new challenges. Now, once you've accepted that, once you've started the process, now we can get into what we'll be discussing today. So here it is, the first step, at least we discussed yesterday, that if you don't know where to start with yourself and just simply start learning first. Start educating yourself about a challenge you're trying to take on, and that is your first step to getting the momentum going again. So by now, at least, you should have clarity on the life you want to live. So that is the first week where we talk about a gameplay loop. Ask yourself, what is it that you really want for life, and have the self-awareness to actually look within. And you have clarity on how to start taking action, which is day two, essentially to take on challenges and understand that you have to start learning and to kind of overcome that little barrier or mindset of taking on new challenges and being afraid of failure. So today, we are going to be talking about the clarity on how to stay consistent. This is a huge one, right? Because a lot of people might get very intense about stuff. They're like, I want to make a change, I want to do things, but you do it for a week. And we see this all the time with like New Year's resolutions, right? People get very intense. They're like, I want to make a change. And then slowly things start to die out, right? You don't really follow through, and hence nothing actually changes. So today is all about how to stay consistent using the gameplay loop framework. So quick reminder, this is how the loop really goes. You take on a challenge, you need to figure out how to level up, and you get some sort of meaningful rewards. But this meaningful reward doesn't just end there. It actually cascades into the next bigger challenge. And this is kind of how you keep the loop going and how you keep things fun, essentially. That is what we're working with. So we talked about secret number one, secret number two, today's secret number three, okay? Which is going to be discipline isn't enough. I learned this lesson pretty harshly in my journey as well. So I want to just kind of say it to you, discipline isn't enough. You hear a lot of people telling you like, you got to stay disciplined, you got to stay disciplined, you got to stay disciplined. But why don't all these people like succeed with their New Year's resolutions when it's so easy to just follow and be disciplined? Because it's not enough, right? So ultimately, this is the problem that I'm noticing. Something that I went through as well is that the majority of people, they try to brute force their way to success, right? You're like, okay, I want to get healthy. I want to make more money. I want to solve this problem. You're like, I'm just going to stay disciplined and go through all the hardships, right? They try to do that. But the thing though is that you just work hard and you try to be disciplined and you hope that things work out, right? But the truth here is that it's not really sustainable for the long term. Right, because at some point you're going to run out of motivation, you'll run out of energy. Basically, if you have to do something for a long time, discipline isn't going to get you all the way there, unlike what a lot of people think. So I want to solve this problem with you today because you want to think of life as a game. All right. Again, I said gameplay loop. So this is how we're framing things. Essentially, think of it like a game, right? To be good at the game, to be good at life, you need to improve your skills, experiences, your abilities, all these kind of things, right? And ideally, doing these kind of things should be fun. It shouldn't be a hassle because the most fun that comes from playing any sort of game, doing any sort of sports, living life is just feeling that constant progress, feeling that you're improving at it. Because as you continue to get better, the game tends to open up, more opportunities open up. You get to take on like huge, like bigger challenges essentially, and the game becomes more fun. So the reason this is so fun is because in nature, as our nature as human beings, we want to improve. We always want to improve. It's just kind of our thing because progress is addictive. It feels good to grow. And if you do this, keep on doing this enough, you keep on progressing and progressing and progressing, eventually you'll have all these skills, experiences, knowledge that you can take on bigger challenges. Okay. But what is the problem, right? The problem here is that unlike video games, okay, unlike video games where progress is fast, you can see an experience bar, you're going to constantly level up. Progress in real life is so, so slow. It's extremely slow, right? And when we don't feel progress, when we don't feel like we're moving forward, then we start to become unmotivated to play the game. This is the problem, right? You start a New Year's resolutions. You want to do something really intensely. You're like, I'm going to do all this hard work. You're going to stay disciplined. But then a week in, a month in, you're like, I'm not making any progress. I'm getting unmotivated. I'm just going to give up and try again another year, right? So this is the problem. This is the cycle that people are stuck in. They just try to be disciplined, but they don't think how they're going to actually stay disciplined or what they're going to actually do to be sustainable. So the reason this is important again is that the bigger rewards in life, at least when I think about it, they are lifelong pursuits, right? People think like, oh, I want to get a six-pack app. For example, I'm just giving a very like superficial example. I get a six-pack app, right? And they feel like if they work hard enough, they'll get it. It might be true. But the thing is, you want to get a six-pack apps means you need to be healthy, right? And health is a lifelong pursuit. You don't just want to be healthy this year. You want to be healthy for the rest of your life. You don't just want to be like, make a lot of money this year. You want to be financially free for the rest of your life. You don't just want a good relationship this year. You want it to be sustainable for the long term, right? So the bigger rewards in life take a long time, maybe even a lifelong time to actually achieve. So that is kind of a problem right there. You can't brute force your way to getting all these things. And a lesson that I learned, at least, is that any goal that you want to achieve, most likely takes a lot longer and more effort that you want. You might have a goal that you want to achieve, and you say, like, I'm going to get it in 3 months, 6 months. I promise you, it will probably take longer. Okay, a good example of this is I started a YouTube channel, and I was like, I'm gonna, make sure it's like succeeds in a year, right? Very naive of me. I'm 3 years in and I'm still working on it, still catching up, still figuring things out, and I'm nowhere near close to getting to that goal. So any goal that you want is going to take much longer and much more effort than you actually think. So knowing that, right, this means that it's way more important that you focus on the process of how you achieve and improve something than the actual goal. This is the mistake that people do, right? You think about something that you want, you focus only on the reward. You're like, that's going to motivate me to get there, but you forget to think about the process of how you're going to get there. So when the process takes longer, you get unmotivated, and then the reward, you're like, it's not worth it, right? So this is why people give up. Because the process of being successful, it doesn't just happen by chance. You don't just stay disciplined, you try your best, and then it happens, right? It happens through intentional decisions and actions that all compound together. You actually plan for things, you work through things, you do specific things that eventually all add up to creating some sort of life you want. You don't just hope say you're going to be disciplined, and then suddenly you get something, right? If it was that easy, everyone would be successful, everyone would be happy, but life just doesn't work that way. I like to say things as it is. I don't like to I like to be very transparent about stuff, because I think this helps people out. People usually want to think things are going to be easy, things are going they're going to deserve a lot of things, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I wish they did though. So a quick reflection time here as I'm talking about all this, whatever you're listening to. When was the last time you actually felt real progress, right? And when you did feel this progress, how did it feel going through this process? I know for me, at least, when I was in school, when I was chasing my wife at the time, yeah, my fiance at the time, I always remembered that in the process of doing things, it felt really good. Like I was getting closer to goal. I was getting closer to goal. But once I got the things that I wanted, I kind of started to stagnate. I was grateful for what I had, but I didn't really feel as exciting. I didn't feel like I was moving forward anymore. And I started to feel like things started to slow down, right? And it wasn't until I started to take on new challenges that it made sense again that I felt that sort of excitement, right? So you have to ask yourself, when was the last time you made progress? If you can't answer this question, it probably means that you weren't taking any proper challenges in the last month or year or so. I know that when I started work, I was like, did I really challenge myself at work? Because it kind of felt like it was just difficult and difficult and difficult, but it was just hard work, but I didn't really feel like I made any progress. And that's why I felt stuck. So if you feel burnt out or stuck, this is a good question for you to ask yourself. So let's start talking about how does the process of leveling up look like? How does the process of improving actually look like? Because in day two, we actually ended it by saying that if you want to start the gameplay loop, if you want to start taking on new challenges, you need to start by learning. But growth requires much more than just knowledge, right? You actually need a strategy on how you're going to implement that knowledge. That's what we're going to get into today. Because again, you have to take action, right? You can't just learn and expect things to work out because it's a gameplay loop. You actually have to actively play the game. Learning is just the start. And again, that's why I wanted to be clear that learning should be something that's sustainable, something you want to do. Because if learning is already draining all your energy, you won't have enough to actually start taking action. So the thing though is that you don't want to just take any action. To level up effectively, you want to focus on high leverage actions. I'm going to explain what this is. This is very, very important right here. And this is going to be the game changer that separates those that just work really, really hard but don't feel progress versus those that work a little bit, but then they get a huge return. Okay. So high leverage is essentially you get an outsize, a way bigger outsize return for the effort that you put in. This is what you want to focus on. You want to focus on the actions where you can just do a little bit, right? But you're going to get a lot in return. And a bad example of a low leverage action is something like a job, right? An hourly wage job. I'm not trying to I mean, I'm an hourly wage worker, but an hourly wage job isn't a high leverage action because you can work extremely hard for the whole hour, like you put your all into it, right? But at the end of it, you just get 1 hour's worth of pay, right? So there's no way to leverage it, right? So ultimately, people are working on a lot of things that are low leverage. That's why they start to get burnt out because they feel like they're working really hard, but they're not getting what they deserve. So we need to switch our mindset to start focusing on what are the high leverage actions in our life. And I'm going to share those with you because you don't want to fall into the trap of just simply working hard but not feeling any progress, right? That's what a lot of us feel. That's what I felt for a long time. So it's kind of time to think a little differently. So there are 3 ways that you can do this effectively. This is what I came up with through my experimentation. There is application, there's reflection, and there's creation. I'm going to talk about these. These are high leverage actions that if you practice this, you're going to get a lot more in return for what you can actually put in. You have to focus on these things. So let's go ahead and start covering them. So first one here is application. Apply what you learn. You're learning a bunch of stuff. You have to promise to yourself, okay, that you apply what you're learning. If not, you're simply just learning and you're wasting your time, okay? Because there's a saying in healthcare, healthcare is that if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you don't use the knowledge you're gaining, then you're going to lose it at the same time too, right? Because as you learn, you need a real life scenario to apply it to. So for example, if you start learning about finances, for example, okay, you're reading about finances, you're watching videos about that, then you need to ask the question, are you trying to apply the things that they're trying to teach you in those stuff? Because if you're not applying, then you need to ask yourself, why are you learning? Same thing with health, same thing with relationships, same thing with developing any sort of skill. If you're learning about something, you need to have some sort of project, some sort of goal where you can apply what you're learning into. That is what changes it from a low leverage action where you're not getting a lot of things to something that's high leverage, because now you're getting real life experience, and that's what's going to actually move the needle in your favor. Because we live in the information age right now, and there's just so much information everywhere, right? Like literally, you can go on Google, type something, and you can get 10, 20, 30, hundreds of videos and articles and whatever, all talking about something, all trying to push the agenda at you, all trying to tell you how to do a particular thing. But your job when you're learning and when you're applying stuff is to figure out what is useful, right? And this is why application is so powerful, because you have to find out what works for you and what is effective enough for you to keep and get rid of all the other useless things that you're learning about. Because this is what people do, right? They learn about everything, but then they don't apply it. So they don't even know what is actually useful. Because application is useful in the same a few ways. Obviously, if you apply it, you're going to learn faster. It's going to be more efficient. It gives you clarity on what you're learning, because if you're learning about something and then you try it out and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know how to do this other thing. I need to start learning about this other side. I mean, this is kind of the progress of like how I started a YouTube channel. Like I was like, oh, I can just shoot a video, right? And I was like, no, I got to also figure out how to structure my stuff. Then I learned how to structure stuff like, oh, I need to learn how to figure out the thumbnails. And then I was like, oh, okay, I know how to thumbnails. Then there's another thing. There's always something else to learn, but you can only know what that other thing is as soon as you have to start first, essentially. And ultimately, it helps you focus on what to learn, because there is so much information. Unless you start applying things and finding out what you need to know next, you're going to get lost on what you need to learn about. But the moment you start actually applying it, now you know exactly what you need to learn next, right? So this kind of makes the process of learning something that is going to be very, very powerful for you, instead of something that you're just doing for the sake of doing. So this is how you level up effectively. We're getting into the how you can do stuff, how you can actually make a difference in your life. So that at least is number one. Now, step number two to growth, to leveling up, is reflection. With application, as you apply things, as you do things, what you're going to get is experience. It's like in a video game, right? You kind of level up your character, you do some stuff, you kill the monsters, you beat the level, you're going to get all these experience points, and this is going to help you level up. So it's extremely important that you reflect on this experience. You take some time and you think about that experience, right? Because, and the best way I personally found you can do this is through writing. Now, if you're reading this right now, you're seeing this, hearing this, and you're like, oh God, it's writing, right? But I want to be very clear that writing in the real world isn't the same as writing of how we were taught in school. Because in school, we were taught to write essays, answer questions. It was like a pain to do, right? Writing in the real world is very, very different. It's all about reflecting, right? And it's the process of recording and passing down information. The world runs on information right now. When you write things down, you are now participating in this information exchange. And this is extremely powerful, because you want to be part of that, right? If you want to get opportunities and all that, you have to get comfortable putting down your experiences, writing what you think about, because that's how you get better. Because this is what's so powerful. As you learn stuff, as you get experience and you write things down, you're going to write down things like, hey, this kind of worked for me, this doesn't work for me. And you're starting to solve problems, solve real life problems, right? And what starts to happen is you start to create your own unique solutions around stuff. Like, for example, say you want to get healthier, right? So you're like, I'm going to try a bunch of different exercises. But what you find is like you don't really like weightlifting, you don't like running, but you really, really like yoga, right? So you're like, okay, yoga is good for me. And then you start writing down like, I don't really have a lot of time to do yoga, like all these 1-2 hour classes, but I found this really cool like 30-minute like routine I can do. And then you write that down too. So you start to create your own little unique solution that fits you. And this lets you stand up for the crowd, because now you're not just saying like, oh, if you want to be healthy, you gotta go bodybuilding, you gotta run, you gotta do all these things. You're like, no, if you want to be healthy, you can do yoga, for example, and you can do it this specific way. And the reason I know this is because I went through the process, I wrote it down, and this is what I came up with. You can confidently say that. This lets you stand up from the crowd. A lot of people simply just repeat after stuff they learn. Like you just recite off a book, you read off a website. That's like the majority of people, right? Because we're in an information age, we're spoiled with information, but not enough people actually speak with real life experience. This lets you stand up from the crowd. This actually is the high leverage action that allows you to have better opportunities. And it doesn't have to be difficult when you're reflecting on your experience, right? Just simply ask, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? All right. If you're reading about something, doing something, why are you doing it? What was my experience doing it? Like, did it work? Did it not work? Was there something else you need to figure out? And what did you learn about it, right? The learning part is important because you're going to take this away and you're going to take it into your next round of challenges. That's kind of how the gameplay loop kind of starts to cascade and go, right? So it's all about this. No long essays, put bullet points, just answer these questions. In fact, I'll share with you guys a worksheet later that you can kind of use this in a very simplified manner. So reflection is extremely powerful. Do think about it. You don't have to be a good writer to even get started. I know I'm not a good writer, but this has really helped me out. In fact, all the things that I'm sharing to you, I've written it down, all my experiences going through the process over years, and I condensed it into something that I can share to you because the human brain can be quite unreliable. You might learn a lot of stuff, read a lot of stuff, but you're not going to remember everything, right? So you want to think about writing as the process of building a second brain, this little like book or a document that's going to summarize all your experiences. You know how powerful that is? All your experiences, all your knowledge, all that things. And ultimately, you want to build a knowledge and experience bank that in time, you don't know when that time is, but in time, maybe you're trying to come up with, some sort of business idea, or maybe you're trying to do some presentation at work or ask for a promotion or whatever it is, right? You can pull from this because you have now real life experience that you've recorded, you know what to talk about, and this is really, really powerful for you to do. So that's at least about reflection. Now we get into a little higher level one. I wanted to throw this in because I think it's important for you to see the long-term vision. But to be clear, right, just reflection and application is already powerful enough to level up. But I'm going to give you something that's a little more advanced, which is creation. So with experience and knowledge in hand, your next task really is to create value that benefits others. This is how you scale your value in the world, scale the opportunities in the world, and ultimately find a way to get fulfillment, live the life you want. You need to find some way to create value. If you're working some sort of job, you are creating value, right? But that value is very, how would I say this? It's a small amount of it, right? But with more experience, with more knowledge, you can expand upon the value you can give, and you can expand upon what you're capable of in this world. And the easiest way, at least that I found, is that you simply can just teach people what you know, right? Because obviously, if you have done the work, you have learned the stuff, you have written things down, then obviously you can teach things, right? I know, like for me as a therapist, I work at a hospital, is that I went through this process. I went to school, right? Like a lot of you, I went to school, I learned. After that, after I learned, I applied what I learned in my work. I figured out, okay, this worked, this didn't work. I got real life experience, right? And based on all this information that I've kind of gathered, now I'm confident enough to teach someone else. Like maybe there's a new hire that come into the work. I'm like, hey, this is what I learned. This is what you should do. So I improved my value because now I'm able to help another person. Because teaching someone allows you to simplify, clarify, and master your knowledge. If you can't teach something, you don't know about that thing enough. Right? And I personally feel that everybody are teachers, right? Everybody is an educator. You just have to know about something enough in order to do so. So if you're learning about health, if you can't teach someone how to do exactly what you're doing, then you probably have holes that you just need to fix. So again, this is high leverage. This is a little more advanced, but I want to show you the bigger picture. And there's a few benefits of teaching, right? You retain knowledge faster, you build authority and trust, you open doors to new opportunities. And ultimately, teaching is very, very powerful right now. And there's many ways you can do so. I don't want to get into the specifics of how to do so, but at least for me, I personally take on opportunities to make presentations at work based on what I'm doing. If I have a partner or someone like my wife or a friend that wants to maybe exercise me or those things, I can teach them how to do those kinds of things. It's basically just a way for you to get into like, okay, I learned all this knowledge now. How can I give it back into the world? How can I solidify I guess myself in the world in a way where people will see me as someone who knows what they're talking about, right? That's kind of your goal. Because the ability to educate others and provide unique and real value, remember, you're not just reciting what you just read, right? This is coming from you, your experience. It's a clear indication that you're leveling up and growing in the world, right? This is kind of the gameplay loop, right? You're taking on challenges. And if you want to level up effectively, this is how you do it. Because people just work hard and they're looking for some solution and nothing really changes. And it's because we're not thinking of how to actually improve on your value and actually level up effectively. But this can be something how you can do it. Keep in mind, this is just one of the methods, but I found it to be a very, very powerful method. And you'll see this with a lot of successful people in the world. Most often than not, if they are very, very successful, if they have achieved what they want in life, they have gone through this process. They have gathered like real life knowledge. They probably have written a bunch of articles, and now they're teaching people, they're educating others, and this allows them to scale their income, live the life they want, whatever it is. But this is kind of the vision you want to have. And ultimately, you don't want to think about the external rewards of doing this. You don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to, I'm not going to teach people because I'm not going to get rewarded for it. I'm not going to teach someone because no one's going to notice it, right? It's not about that. It's not even about getting the reward. It's about the process of thinking of it as building skills, building confidence, and actually thinking of the experience of doing that as the reward. Because now you have this very unique thing, this like whatever it is like that you've done all this work to get. Now you can take this into the next bigger challenge, because now this is going to help you grow, and this is how you kind of improve and level up again and again and again, right? So ultimately, this is how you want to think of challenges. A lot of people kind of go through the process, do something, and like, okay, I'm going to do this just because I know after I do this, I'm going to get rewarded, and then I'm going to stop. But a lot of people do this, and where do they end up? They just full stop and they go right back into wherever they were stuck again. But you want to think of this process of like, I did all these things. Now, what can I use this for? How can I use this reward to tackle something that I wasn't able to maybe a month ago or something like that? This is actually where it gets a little bit more fun once you get into the flow of things. So that's kind of it for the strategy on how to apply knowledge, right? So you need to kind of focus on the high leverage actions, because if you just work on things that are low leverage, things that are going to fatigue you and tire you out, then at the end of the day, you're just going to end up in the same situation where you feel tired and you're working really, really hard, but you still feel burnt out and nothing's really moving forward. So focusing on the high leverage actions at least will help you feel like you're making real progress in the world. But now let's talk about building a strategy for consistency. Because again, it doesn't matter if you do it just for the short term, but if you do it for the long term, that's where you see the real gains. That's where you see things start to come together, where the life that you want actually slowly gets built. So to build consistency, you have to ideally enjoy the process, because remember, again, everything that we're pushing for, trying to achieve, is a lifelong process. So if you're not able to do things for the long term, then you're not really going to get the meaningful rewards that are at the end of the end of the tunnel, right? So you have to stay consistent and you need to enjoy this process. And ultimately, this is how you continue the loop. You can keep on going. And back to the secret, at least, that discipline isn't enough. Discipline is not going to be enough to stay consistent, right? You can't just be disciplined and hope that you'll follow through with all the things we're talking about. In order to actually be consistent, I believe you need a system to follow. And let me define a system real quickly. So a system is a set of principles or procedures to which something is done. If you really think about the stuff that you do a lot, there's some sort of system built in place, maybe even unconsciously. For example, think about your job, right? There is a system to ensure that you actually do your work. You get your shit done, right? If you make sure that if you don't get your work done, for example, maybe your boss will be like, hey, what's the deal here? You have to clock in on time. You don't clock in time, maybe you get a write-up. And if you kind of slack off at work, someone's going to write you up or something like that. And for me personally, if like I'm working in healthcare, if I don't keep my patients safe, then there is probably like all these procedures to make sure that I'm keeping my patients safe, et cetera, right? A lot of things that we do, there is a system in place to help us accomplish that. But the problem, however, is that in real life, right, with all the things that we've been talking about, there is no set system or perimeters that helps you actually accomplish things. I think that's why a lot of people fail with trying to chase after goals, because they're like, all right, I want to accomplish this, so I'm going to be disciplined and I'm just going to go and do it. But they don't really think, like, how do they design their life? How do they create an environment that's going to help them actually succeed? So you have to think about these kind of systems here. There's actually an awesome book about this called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you guys have read this before, really, really popular book, but it kind of dwells into why systems are so powerful, because we are creatures of habit and we need some sort of system to keep us in place to build these kind of habits. So ultimately, you have to create it yourself if you want to be consistent with the leveling up process. If you want to accomplish all the things we've been talking about, if you're committed to it, you have to create a system to make sure you actually accomplish it. Don't just try your best and say you're going to do your best and then hope that things work out, right? Actually consciously create that solution. So ultimately, you want to design this system in a way where you maximize the chance that you succeed and you minimize the chance that you're going to fail, right? So how do you do this? A good system will require a few things. It requires clarity on what the goal is. You have to ask yourself, what is my goal? What am I trying to achieve? You need clear perimeters, what, where, and when the system will take place, right? You need to ask yourself, is there a time that I'm going to do this particular thing? Where am I going to do it? What is the process of getting it done? Like literally write it down and create it for yourself. Like you're almost trying to design something that's going to where you can like, okay, I don't know what to do right now. What am I supposed to do? What did my past self tell my future self that I need to do? And lastly, here is any sort of modification to ensure that you maximize the chances of success. I'll give you a good example of this. For a long time, I was trying to go to the gym a lot more consistently, and I was struggling with it, right? Like I tried a bunch of different things. Like, okay, I knew I wanted to work out, I knew I wanted to go to the gym, but I couldn't really get myself motivated enough to do these kind of things, right? So I tried a bunch of stuff. I tried waking up way earlier in the morning to try to go. It didn't really work out. I tried going after work, but sometimes I would feel so tired. So what I started to do is I started to modify things like, okay, before I go to work, I'm going to pack my gym bag and everything the night before and put it right at the door. So the next morning when I went to work, I would walk out and I was like, oh, my gym bag is already there. I guess I just have to take it up. And now it's already in my car, right? So while I'm driving home from work, I'm so tired. I'm like, God, I don't want to go to the gym. But now I have the gym bag literally right there. So I was like, I guess I have to go, right? So you're really modifying your environments in a way where it maximizes your chance to succeed. So this is kind of how you design the system. And it takes some tweaking, takes some experimentation in order to get it just right. But you want to constantly think about how you can tweak things so that you're successful. Don't just try your best. Trying your best isn't enough. Seriously, I've tried my best enough times to know that trying my best often leads to failure. I know that sounds funny to say, but it's really, really true. So I want to help you do this. I want to help you build your leveling up system, okay? Because you want to make progress inevitable. If you learn everything right here, but you can't stay consistent with it, you kind of you weren't really able to take full advantage of the knowledge that you've just gained. Because a lot of people, if you're here right now, up to this point for day three, you know a lot of things that the majority of the people don't know. And as long as you can implement what you have learned already, you're guaranteed to make progress. You're guaranteed to eventually get out of this burnout and actually break through to what you want to achieve. But you have to be consistent enough with it. So I want to end this like with this part, okay? Because this is very important. So ultimately, I'm going to give you guys a worksheet, and most likely, as long as you go through this, as long as you write it down and you try to constantly tweak it, this is going to be what's going to guide you and create your system to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So first thing, define what your goal is. What are you working towards, right? Second, identify your leveling up process. How are you actually leveling up? We talked about the high leverage actions earlier, right? So you can think about in day number two, as you're learning about stuff, like if you wanted to learn about how to gain a new skill, how to be better at something, how to be a little healthier, how to have more energy, whatever it is, as you're learning all these things, now you need to identify what your leveling up process. How will you apply the knowledge? How you're reflecting on it, and how are you creating value for others. I just added that extra thing. You guys can work on it too if you want. But ultimately, as you're learning, you can even add like, when are you going to learn? Like you can modify it however you want. I'm just giving you the framework. But basically, you want to start thinking about this so you know exactly what you need to do instead of just trying to blindly flail around and just try to do things just because you're trying hard, right? So create the process of how you're actually applying it. Define like what is the time, and then actually I want to cover the last part. Set the perimeters for the system. Think about the how, when, and where you do this. A really, really good strategy, or something I wish I did a lot earlier, is this strategy called time blocking. I never really did this a lot, but it was a game changer, right? Because your whole day is really busy. You're extremely busy. There's a lot of things going on. And there's also a lot of distractions. And if you just let things as it is, like time just flies by so quickly. And keep in mind, I'm saying time flies by, it really, really flies by. like a year or two can go by and you'll be like, where did the time go? I know a lot of you guys can relate to that because I relate to it. But essentially, if you don't think about how you're using your time, it is going to go by. So at least set a little time in your day. It can be 10, 15 minutes, whatever you can dedicate to it. Just set a little time and say, like, during this time, it's for me. This time is for me to implement the gameplay loop, is for me to implement the things that I'm learning. Whether you're learning, you're reflecting on your knowledge, you're trying something new, literally write down the time in your day from 5 to 5:15, from, right before I go to work, right when I get a thing I like to do is right when once I get back home from work, before I shower and before I eat dinner. That's a good thing because I'm motivated to get something done before I can eat and get clean. That's usually a good like strategy as well. But think about when you're doing something, how you're doing something, and even where you're doing something. Like if it's too busy to actually accomplish all this at home because you have kids or you have a spouse or you have responsibilities, then maybe before you get home, stop by a coffee shop or something. I don't know, stop by a park and like take out that book and read it or do something, write something down, like whatever it is, just set aside time and stick with it. It's so important because you have to, again, you have to focus on what you can control, right? And you may do this for a while and you're like, nothing's really changing. But if you do this in the right way, you'll gain experience, you gain knowledge, you gain confidence, you know what the next steps are. But it starts by just being consistent and focusing on this leveling up process. So remember, this doesn't have to be a long or stressful process, right? This can be something you're like, I guess this is just a part of my life. This is who I am. This is what I want to do because I'm tackling challenges that I want, right? And I'm going through the leveling up process because that's what's going to get me better. I'm going to get the rewards I need to accomplish my goals in the future. A lot of people feel that because they work so hard already, any extra work is going to be extremely stressful for them. But it doesn't have to be stressful. In fact, it's way better if you can dedicate the best parts of your day to this process. If you find that you're a morning person, do this in the morning. You find that you're a night person, do this at night. Whatever it is, just find some time and say this is something that you want to do and try to modify your habits around it, right? And ultimately, this is going to be how you're going to scale and eventually escape whatever like hole that you're stuck in. So again, it's all about sustainability and consistency. And I want to add fun as well. You want to have fun in the process. Like, don't take things so seriously. I like this is something that I think, and I work in healthcare. Like, things are so stressful and things are so hard. And you want to be grateful for the opportunities that you have to improve on your life, to do things. So do try to not take things too seriously. Try to just have fun with the process and enjoy it and tell yourself like you're lucky to be able to do these kind of things. I know when the going gets tough for me, at least, I try to remind myself that. And that's how I kind of snap out of little thing because it's very easy. Like our mind likes to play tricks on us. When things go bad, it really goes bad downhill fast. And you have to catch yourself and you're like, okay, no, I gotta keep on going whatever I'm doing. So think about how you can make it fun and just integrate it into part of your life. So we're getting close here already. That's everything I want to share. I'm literally throwing everything that I've researched on for you and I'm giving everything to you. So now it's kind of up to you to kind of make a difference in your life. But I do have a question for you here is that do you believe that if you implemented everything that you'll be successful to move forward again? Like if you tried everything out, right? Even though you sure you can't predict the future, but if you did everything, do you feel at least you'll feel less stuck or less frustrated or less burnt out than where you are already right now? For me, at least, I know that this helped me out. This process helped me out. Like it was trial and tested through my experience, and I'm just sharing what I discovered, minus all the pitfalls that I fell into. I did a lot of mistakes. I'm taking all that out and just giving you guys the good stuff. So, do you believe that you actually move forward? Because a friendly reminder about the 4-week coaching program again is that if you need more, I guess, more support and more just like more step-by-step actionable steps, right? Then this is really the way to do so. Because here's kind of what everything you'll get. You get one-on-one coaching calls with me. Like I know you might have a lot of questions. Again, I'm just talking to a camera. But if you have like specific questions like, hey, I'm having this problem, I can't implement this, I don't understand this, this is where we can kind of work things together and come up with something that's going to work for you, right? There's going to be weekly group calls as well where we can dive into specific concepts of the gameplay loop. Again, everything that I shared so far is the foundation, but we can all dive into it a lot more. You can also be, supported by your peers where you're in a private group that can support you as you need. And it's proven, scientifically proven, if you chase goals and you do things with other people who are chasing the same goals, you're way more likely to succeed. And ultimately, what you want to go away with this 4 week blueprint, or what I want to give you, is that you have a customized blueprint. So that way, after those 4 weeks, you still know what to do. You can follow it along all the way and you feel fun. It's going to be consistent and you basically be able to be sustainable with your progress for the long term. And there's also much more stuff. But these are going to be the base things I want to kind of share with you. And again, it's only $199 because this is a pilot program. I'm also trying to improve on these things as I know the real life problems that you guys are having and kind of go from there. You can check out the link in the chat. It's christian1.com/now. And again, everything that I shared too, you can already start to implement it. This is more for people who want a little bit more guidance. You want kind of to ask the questions to actually start taking action now. This is going to be great for you. I do only want to do this with 10 people. I'm keeping this like the cohorts pretty small because I think that if you do sign up, each person should get the support and guidance they need. They shouldn't just feel like there's some people where they sign up for stuff and they're like, kind of like didn't feel like I got my money's worth because I got lost in the crowd. The classroom was too big. No, if you sign up for this, do expect me to be talking to you and figuring shit out with you because that's what I want to do. That's what I'm passionate about. I work like this in healthcare with a lot of people and I'm kind of transitioning to this more, working with people who are feeling burnt out because I feel like a lot of people, this is a real problem that needs to be addressed. And yeah, I want to help more people accomplish this. So ultimately, thank you so much. If you've been here for the 3 days together, I know it was a huge commitment. So if you're here all the way to the end, I really, really appreciate it. In fact, I think my team is telling me that's only like 6 spots left. Okay, sorry, yeah, not 10 spots, 6 spots. But ultimately, yes, thank you for joining the 3 day challenge. I hope that the information that I shared at least gives you a bit more clarity and direction. That's what I hope, right? I want to give people hope. That's why I created this, share my ideas online, because I think a lot of people are seeking solutions and they've lost hope, thinking that this is how things are going to be. This is how the reality is. But I don't think I don't want to accept that reality. I feel that if you want something enough, if you're willing to do the work, willing to learn, there's always going to be a better future. You'll be able to accomplish the goals that you actually want. So at least what you can take away from this is hopefully you just have a little hope, have a little clarity on what the next steps are. If you have that, I would say that I accomplished my job, right? So yeah. And one really quick thing, if you want more kind of content like this, I have a YouTube channel, it's Christian X1. I'm just gonna share my raw thoughts about stuff, things that I'm going through. Again, I've been doing it for like 3 years already, and yeah, just kind of check it out. It's like free too. And occasionally I kind of share little tidbits about the gameplay loop. But this is basically me just talking about more of my life experience, my things with healthcare, how I'm kind of accomplishing and overcoming my challenges. Like I'm just a person like you. I go through everyday problems as well. So this is just me sharing my thoughts. Yeah, but that's about it. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining this challenge. Again, here's the link if you guys are interested. It's just like my pitch to you guys, so I can get to know you a little better if you're interested. But yeah, that's about it for the 3 day challenge. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything like that, please ask it in the chats. Yeah, and then we can kind of go from there. I hope you guys got some value of this. I know I can't really see you guys face to face. I'll talk to you and everything like that, but I hope at least you gain something away from it. Oh, and the worksheet actually it'll be posted in the chat as well, and it'll be linked to you. It's something that you can use to track your progress and create like a system that you can follow to actually make proper progress. Yeah, it should be just posted right now. So check it out, copy it over to your drive, and then use it as you need. You can make duplicates to use it, every month or so. But I found it pretty useful. So yeah, I think that's about it. It was a fun time. Thanks for joining. I'll kind of hang out a little bit just to make sure that if you guys have any questions, I'll answer that, and then we'll go from there. And yeah, if you guys have any like comments, or at least like if you guys think it was helpful, some parts were confusing, some parts didn't make sense, just kind of let me know, leave a chat below. Sometimes I'm talking into an echo chamber. I've been talking on YouTube for so long, like I'm just speaking to myself sometimes. It's nice to get a little feedback. So if you guys have any feedback, if you guys have any like concerns or questions again that you think like, I don't know if this makes sense or this makes sense, this really helped me, please let me know. It'd be very, very helpful for me. But if not, I'll give it another minute or so, and then yeah, I think we'll end the challenge. Happy weekend, you guys. Let's have a great 2025. Yeah. Yeah, 2025. I can't believe it. Time really, really does fly. I'm just looking at the chat here just for a little bit more time. All right. If there are no more questions, I think we'll end the challenge right here. Again, have a great rest of your weekend, your Sunday and week. Thank you again for joining. I really, really appreciate it. And if you like this kind of content, if you're interested in, listening to me ramble on about more stuff, do check me out on YouTube. I post pretty much every week about a particular topic and things like that. And yeah, it's also where you can interact with me. So if there's any, new challenges or things there, that's where you kind of notice it as well. So yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Hopefully talk to you soon. And yeah, if you're interested, make sure links right there. Okay. See you guys.